now invite Mrs. Sheila Yasmin from Wimbledon.
Yes.
Mrs. Sheila Yasmin, please.
Sheila Yasmin, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Yes, fine. Now, what does this name indicate? Sheila Yasmin.
Sheila Yasmin.
I see. So he read it as Yasmin, which looks like, sounds like a Muslim name.
Yes, yes,
Is it a Muslim name?
yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Her husband is a Muslim.
We Christians believe in the second advent of Jesus, Son of Mary. I understand that Muslims also believe in the second advent of Jesus, Son of Mary.
Right.
How do you explain that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, whom you believe to be the promised Messiah, when he is not Jesus, Son of Mary?
I can explain. I can explain in the terms of the understanding of the divine word by Jesus, Son of Mary himself. He should be the last authority, last word on this issue. When it was demanded from him to produce Elijah or Elijah, the prophet of God who had ascended to heaven sitting on his fiery chariot, to have come again before the coming of Christ. What was the answer? He pointed at John the Baptist, not pointing his finger directly at his body, he was not there, but pointing at him in meaning. He said, he is the Elijah. Now here, not Elijah, but the Elijah, which you are expecting. Believe it or not, it's up to you. So he was not named Elijah. His name was John. He was son of Zechariah, not born of the same parents as Elijah of old was born. All names differed. The prophecy apparently, and in fact, rather very clearly depicted of the physical bodily reappearance of Elijah from the heaven. So how would you rate the decision of Jesus Christ in this regard? Will he be taken to be right in declaring that John the Baptist, despite no commonality between him and the earlier Elijah, was right when he passed this judgment? If you say, yes, he was right, then by the same judgment, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian is proved to be right. Because then the meaning is that the recoming of such people who have a definite parenthood, definite name, definite occupation in time or history, when they are promised to come again, they never come again bodily. They always come in the form of, in spirit, in character, in teaching, in style. So if Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian is taken to be wrong in declaring him to be the son of Mary in this meaning, in this understanding of the term, then you have to reject not one Messiah but both the Messiahs, unfortunately. Either you keep both or reject both, because the verdict is passed and it would not permit you to separate between one Messiah and the other. So these are metaphorical expressions. Prophecies are made with reference to specific, particular persons. And they are not made only in Judaic religion or in Islam alone. They have been made all over the world. But literally, they have not got fulfilled even once in the entire history of mankind. Metaphorically, yes. All the prophecies have been fulfilled. So you have to judge the claim of Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad in line with the claim of all such people appearing everywhere in the world in the name of the earlier holy people who had claimed to reappear. So we don't believe he was a reincarnation, not at all. What we believe is that he relived Jesus in Islam by changing the attitudes which he changed earlier, by presenting an example like the example of Jesus Christ himself. What he had done, he had changed attitudes, as I earlier said. Instead of emphasis on sword and forceful coercions, as you indicated just now, the emphasis was on sacrifice. If somebody strikes you on one cheek, offer the other one. Now, this is also a biblical teaching. The window of forgiveness was kept open, but practically kept shut by the people. So he practically shut the window of vengeance and revenge and widened this window of forgiveness to a degree. He said, all right, if somebody strikes you, be patient, be perseverant. Somebody abuses you, don't call him bad names, pray for him. So this is how he was Jesus, son of Mary, in spirit and in attitudes. Thank you.
Hazur, we now invite Mr. Tim K. from Bracknell. Mr. Tim K, please.
Mr. Tin K from Brighton, right.
Hello,
You
sir.
have come all the way from Brighton for this purpose?
No, Bracknell.
Oh, sure, right. Right.
I would like to ask
Would you please raise the microphone or lower your
Oh yeah, of course.
yourself? Thank you.
I would like to ask, there's a lot of suffering in the world, of course. Will there ever be a time when people of different religions, different religious leaders, ever come together? And has this Messiah that you believe in, has he made any prophecies about the coming together of religions?
Well, prophecies are found all over the world of unification of man under one religion. But never have I found any prophecy anywhere of amalgamation of religions into one. They're two different things. They can never happen. Unity is reborn.
Yes.
And it gains mass as it rolls on. But unity cannot be forged by combining different forces, different ideologies, and amalgamating into one and presenting them under one flag. That's not unity. So the claim of all religions, as I understand, when they speak of a golden age, when man will become united under one flag, only means that a movement will be launched, a divine movement in the latter days, whereby gradually, by changing our ideologies, by changing of thoughts and attitudes, a new entity would begin to arise and gather force and gather mass until it becomes largest, and it will not be based on any racial or geographical philosophy. It will be based entirely on universal philosophy. So people from all over the world would come and join and feel at one with each other, sharing the same equality. That is how we feel that we, inshallah, are going to bring about the unity of man under the flag of Islam as we understand that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We now invite Mr. Jawab Tanveer from High Wycombe, please.
Hi, welcome.
Assalamu
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Sir,
Originally, if you are from the Punjab?
yes, from Lahore.
Lahore?
Yes.
Right. From walled city or from the outer Lahore?
In Kent, cantonment.
So that means you must have migrated from East Punjab and settled there. Could have been, I mean, not must.
No, no, sir.
No? You are originally Lahori
I'm originally.
or from some other district?
No, I belong to NWFP.
NWFP?
Yes.
Oh, so that's what I understand. The Lahoris true Lahoris are those who are born in the walled city.
Yeah,
And their style is very specific and
typical.
recognizable. Others are either immigrants or coming from different provinces and places. Right,
Yes.
okay. Thank you. Please.
Sir, my question relates to the same subject as discussed earlier about the ascension of Jesus Christ, how real it is.
The features or similarities, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
How we can present some similarities between the Messiah we believe in as the re-advent of Jesus and the first Jesus whose image he claims to be, correct?
Yes.
Right. So it's a long list. All of you have to be patient with me, but I won't exhaust it. I'll just present to you a few cases by way of demonstration. You are a Muslim, of course. You should also bear in mind that the Holy Quran speaks of a similarity between Moses and Muhammad Rasulullah Sallam as well. Does it not? And so there is a prophecy of Hazrat Moses himself in Deuteronomy chapter 22, isn't it? 18, chapter 18, verse 18. Chapter 18, verse 18. That a prophet would be raised from among your brethren, like unto you. That's these similar words. So what are the similarities between Moses and Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah Sallam? First of all, that question has to be answered. Second, Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah Sallam was prophesied in the New Testament as well by Jesus Christ. And there his description is different from that of Moses. So that means a Messiah was also to be born in Islam. And that is why Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah Sallam repeatedly prophesied that in my ummah also, in the latter days, in the end days, a Messiah will be born. So relating both these issues, you will come to a better understanding of similarities. The similarity between Moses and Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah Sallam, first of all, was that both brought a new law and a fiery law, a sort of with glory and majesty. And that law got enforced with complete success within their lifetimes. And they did not leave the world until they had seen the law established and enforced. Secondly, this requires a rapid movement which was also related with the use of force and sword whenever sword was raised against them. Both Moses was permitted and Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah Sallam, and peace be upon Moses as well. So this is another similarity which we see. And after that, the enforcement of law takes place many centuries. The real, in not only enforcement of law, talking from the political point of view, I don't mean that, but sinking of the law into the people and their habits takes a very long time. And in the first beginning of the Islamic movement, it began to spread not by sword, as people believe, but by the deliverance of message and the deliverance of the Quranic values as practiced by the Muslims of the time. This is important for me to emphasize because there are many non-Muslims present here who misunderstand the spread of Islam to have depended upon the use of sword. You see, the largest population of the Muslims are found in Indonesia, in Malaysia, in 4 provinces of China. And the history tells us that not a single battle was fought for the sake of Islam in all these countries. Yet it spread. And it spread faster and wider. Where the Muslims ruled for many centuries continuously in India. The progress of Islam was much slower, and with obstruction here and there, it spread, but it remained to be a minority for the last 1,000 or more years. So that is what should be kept in mind. So the first message was given a push off with a great impetus and a great force until it reached its climax in having delivered the message of Islam and having established it to all the important known countries of the world of that time, except a portion which is called the West. There it only stuck at the walls and knocked at the walls and made an entry and quickly withdrew, but didn't leave a lasting impression on the people, except for a few exceptions like Bosnia and things. Now I come to the period which had to follow. During this course, politics began to be intermingled with Islamic ideology when the spread of Islam also resulted in Muslim states. They came to be born. And whenever state interplays with religious hierarchy, havoc is played both to the politics and to religion. That is exactly what happened during the medieval centuries. And they distorted the image of Islam to that of a national movement, of a racial movement, of a territorial movement. So the term holy war or jihad came to be misunderstood as a movement of subjugation of all the people of the world, politically and ideologically, with the help of your thumb on the throats. Now, how they understand it to have happened, I can't understand. It's impossible for the soul to change the ideas, beliefs. They can sever the heads from the body, but they cannot change a single belief of the head of the mind within the head. They can create reactions, of course. Subjugation only takes place when something within the people, such people who are coerced, something of life and honor within them have already died. When they are neither fit as Christians or as Muslims or anything else. As long as that honor lives, they will not bow to sword. So the sword seems to be successful in some phases of history, but to no purpose. Names were changed, styles were changed, but the hearts remained as atheistical, as atheist-minded, and attitudes were as corrupt as they used to be before. So leaving that aside, now I turn to the last recipe for such a situation. When the hearts are hardened, when the message is understood to be that of a forceful change in the ideology of the world and the forceful imposition of the Muslim states upon the non-Muslim states. Is that not exactly the attitude found in the time of Jesus Christ among the Jews? This was the fight about. This was all the difference between the Christians, between Christ and the Jews. You know, they demanded that we were expecting a Christ, but a Christ with a throne under him and a crown over his head. A Christ would leave the movement of rebellion against the Roman yoke. And you have come to perpetuate our slavery? And this is what you call the spirit of Christ? That we reject it. It's meaningless. But Christ said, all right, go ahead what you do, but you will suffer. And that's what they did. They went on making rebellions, fighting others in the name of religion, and they were thoroughly demolished and defeated by a general of the Romans in 71 or 72 after Christ. But Christianity, which did not have any sword in its hand, went on flourishing and spreading, despite all opposition. Here the sword was taken from the hands of the believers and handed over entirely to the hands of the oppressors and rejectors. Yet it spread. So it was Jesus Christ and his movement which gave, a measure of honor to the early success of Judaism. If Jesus had not appeared, then all were justified in concluding that the message of Moses and the teachings of Torah has no inherent beauty in it. It is only when it ran along with force and coercion that it acquired a measure of success. Otherwise, in itself, it's mere ugliness. But what Jesus did was a revolution in this area, brought about a revolution. He said, all right, I stick to the same values. You take the sword in your hand. You try to destroy me and my followers and crush them. Do whatever you may. We are going to emerge victorious. It was this belief of Jesus in truth itself which brought about the great revolution in the ideologies and the attitudes of the people around. So first of all, Hazrat Mirza Sahib should be understood in this context. Is it not exactly the same battle which began between him and the Orthodox Muslims? They wanted a liberator from the British yoke who would raise sword against them and lead them to victory. No such Messiah came to them. And he said, all right, we do not believe in a slave Messiah. That is how he was ridiculed even by Iqbal. He said, we do not believe in those who are slaves to be honored as prophets of Allah. Those who live under a foreign yoke, they are not worthy of acceptance as the messengers of God. This is exactly the allegations against Jesus Christ, which was leveled by the Jews. Now, Iqbal, I don't know why he chose to forget the status of Joseph, son of Jacob, who he believed to be a prophet of God, but he lived all his life under a foreign yoke. He accepted a high office under a king who did not believe in him. So to live under a foreign yoke does not result in giving right to the people to reject such a man. So Iqbal should have started his journey with Joseph first, then he should have come to Jesus Christ himself and said, there goes another claimant, a slave prophet. Unless Masih Maud had that something in common with Jesus, he could not have been taken as seriously as a true image of Jesus and repetition of Jesus' message. But that's not all. What happened then, from then on, Jesus and his followers were put through the mill of persecution so severely and so cruelly, and they were declared to be outside the pale of Judaism. They were declared to have no right to live unless they defiled the teachings of Christ and the image of Christ, or unless they abused him and cursed him. The history is full of such events. And it is being repeated here now in Pakistan, from where you have come. They catch hold of Ahmadis, poor Ahmadis, and say, abuse Mirza Ghulam Ahmad or we will not leave you alone. Or either sometimes they are killed because they refuse to abuse, or they are beaten up and left as pulp, sometimes imprisoned under false allegations that we have done it because such a man was insulting Na'uz Billah min Zalik Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. A man who is so honorable, as offers every sacrifice but does not succumb to the pressure of the sword or force, how could he tell falsehood, who speak falsehood, utter falsehood? He's honest and true. Otherwise, he will not offer sacrifices for the sake of his own beliefs. So when he says, I love Muhammad Rasulullah, I believe in him, I know that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian received all honors from him, and he was his ultimate master. They have no right to reject this belief. But it goes on. So this is, again, a repetition of the early history. The attitudes were changed, and the people of followers of Jesus Christ were persecuted for their noble attitudes, not for crimes. This is exactly being repeated in case of the followers of Hazrat Mirza Sahib. They're not beaten up for stealing. They're not beaten up for usurping others' rights. They're not beaten up for appearing in the court for false witnessing, etc., etc. They're not beaten up for drugs. They're beaten up for, and in Northwest Province, I'm telling you, they're beaten up and prosecuted and condemned to serve imprisonment for 3 years to begin with, then it was reduced to 1 year. You know for what crime? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim was discovered from the house of this man as police raided his house for illicit things. The first report of the police, which was taken seriously and accepted by the judge, was that the crime of this man was that when we raided his house and searched him and his possessions, we discovered Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, which means in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, oft repeating his mercy. So if such are the crimes of Ahmadis today, go back to the time of Jesus, similar were the crimes of the people there. They didn't rob anybody. They didn't kill anybody. They didn't usurp anybody's rights. They didn't indulge in child abuse or abduction and asking for money and blackmailing and all this. All this is left to the lot of the mullahs in Pakistan and their followers. They appropriate these rights. But Ahmadis, they're not given the right to declare La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. For that, the death penalties are hanging over their heads today. Is it not like the movement of Jesus Christ? But that is not enough. Many a time, a minority is persecuted and destroyed if God is not at the back. But it did not happen in case of Jesus Christ and his followers. They tried to pulverize Christianity to smithereen, to smallest pieces. But every time they passed out of the mill of persecution, they were larger and bigger and stronger. Is that not what is happening to Ahmadiyya? So what other signs you require? And then the time measure, the difference between Moses and Jesus is 1300 years. The difference between Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah and Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian claimant to Messiahhood is 1300 years. Jesus did not bring a new law. He claimed that he has not come to change a single jot of the Quranic teaching or the word of Muhammad Rasulullah. So are there not similarities enough for one to seriously contemplate the possibility of becoming an Ahmadi? Thank you.
Hazur, there is a question from the lady's side. Her name is Mrs. Habibur Rahman Tooting.
Mrs. Khalilur Rahman?
Habibur Rahman. And
I thought it was
she is brought by Mr. Mansoor
Yes.
of Tooting.
Right.
The question is, could you please throw some light on the divine authenticity of Bible and Quran and their preservation?
See, the divine authenticity of the books can best be judged by two measures. according to me. First, the quality of the teaching. The divine teachings have in themselves a quality of goodness which defends the claimant and his innocence. Because if somebody was from Satan, or if somebody stood because of some internal motivations of his own interests, then his teachings must be corrupt by that degree. If the teaching is honest and straightforward, then such a teaching cannot be rejected as false. So that is why the Holy Quran repeatedly points out at the commonality of all religious teachings. The Holy Quran says this is how you should judge a book, a divine book, whether it is from God or not, that basically, essentially, it has exactly the same teaching as other religions have taught before. And a false man would not require, he has no reason to begin to support truth for the sake of some ulterior motives. All false people who claim to be from God and were destroyed and were turned into things of history was those who invented teachings which had crookedness about them. They resulted in some gains for him and his supporters. Mostly, they came always with the support of a group or a clan. Never will you find a man rising alone without any support and presenting a teaching, attributing a teaching to God, which was absolutely plain, simple, honest, and based on goodness and wisdom and reason. So one way of judging comparing the Quran and the Bible, and not only them, but other divine books, is to go for the essence of the teaching. Is it essentially good or bad? Secondly, you should compare it with nature as created by God. If unnatural claims are made, then that teaching has to be rejected in as much as the unnatural claims are made. But this presents a dilemma. If unnatural claims are made in any divine book or supposedly divine book, then there are only two possibilities of settling the issue. Either that such unnatural teachings were added by man, they were interpolated by man, of an age where he did not understand the phenomena of nature, but attributed things to the teaching maybe to attack people through another means, because at that time some false claims about how the nature works could attract people to the so-called truth of the religion. For instance, it is emphasized about Jesus Christ that because he was born here on earth, so the sun and the planets moved around the earth and earth remained stationary, and it was disrespectful of anybody to believe that earth went round the sun. Now that latter part came to be born later on, but in the beginning it was a united, accepted belief among the Christians, based according to their understanding of scriptures, of course, that earth was stationary, and it had to be stationary because it would be disrespectful of Jesus Christ to have born in a place which in itself was revolving around other things. So Galileo paid the price, or nearly paid the price of declaring that earth went round sun and other planets also revolved around it. But he was not brave enough, unless, in fact, his admission to the church that I withdraw my claim is a blemish on the community of scientists. He didn't change his mind, but he saved his skin and lost his honor in science. But that is an example. When you study Bible critically, then you realize that this was never claimed by God himself. whatever has been claimed was either misinterpreted or interpolated with by the people of that age with a wrong understanding of the universe around them. So this second criterion is also very important. According to the Holy Quran, Bible was the word of God, but with the condition that that word of God was changed by the people and the scribes themselves. So wherever there is a contradiction, it's not the contradiction between one word of God and the other word of God. It is because of this discrepancy created by human beings. So this is a very large subject, and I know the time is coming to a close. Where is the... That's right, it's right over there. Only 6 minutes are left. I think it will give you a general idea of what we believe about the truth and how we believe about the truth of the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the Quran, despite of the fact of apparent contradictions between them.
There are 2 more questions. We invite now Mr. Habibur Rahman Talukdar from Tooting. Please.
Huh?
Mr. Habibur Rahman
Himself is not.
Talukdar.
Right, please.
Well, this is what's a simple question. Does Islam encourage scientific experimentation and development? This is the first one. Second one is there any mention of atomic energy in the Holy Quran?
Yes.
These 2.
Yes. You see, Islam, in fact, not only Islam, but no religion on earth who is true in its beginning can contradict the act of God which is expressed in the way He has created. This contradiction in terms cannot be accepted. So we believe that, and we, with the grace of Allah, we can prove it, that all religions at their beginning were exactly in conformity with the nature created by God. And we do not only defend the Holy Quran in this regard, but also the Bible. We tell the Christians and the Jews, please don't take these things literally. Read them in the light of what the Quran has spoken on the same subject, and then you will begin to understand the true import of those verses of the Bible which seem to be contradicting nature. So the Holy Quran repeatedly demands people to use their brains, their heads, their aql. Afala taqilun, afala taqilun. He said, why don't these people use wisdom which God has given them? Or are there locks on their hearts? So the one religion which emphasizes the role of wisdom and understanding is unfortunately treated by the so-called custodians of that religion as not permitting the use of wisdom with relation to the Quran and the relation to Islam. This is their falsehood, not the falsehood of the Quran. Now the second question was of the same nature, but specifically you inquired about, please? Atomic energy. All right, I understand.
Sorry, is there any mention of atomic
Yes.
energy in the Holy Quran?
There is a definite mention of the atomic energy and also of the atomic explosion, also the consequences thereof, and the extremely dangerous radiating cloud spreading over the world and destroying life underneath. All these things are mentioned in the Holy Quran very clearly. To begin with, I quote a surah of the Holy Quran, a small surah at the end of the chapter, in the last chapter, in the last part, what do you call it? Last part, that is 30th part. And I refer to Surah Humazah. it says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim, Wailul likulli humazatil lumazatin alladhi jama malum wa addada, yasabu anna malahu akhlada, kalla layumbadhanna fil hutamati, wa ma adraka mal hutama, narullahil muqadatul lati, tattaliu ala al-afida, innaha alayhim musadatun fi amadim mumaddada. Now, leaving the first part for a while because of the shortage of time, I come to the crux of the matter. It says such and such people as have been described will be thrown into the smallest particle. What sense does it read? لَيُنْبَذَنَّ فِي الْحُطَمَةِ. And consult all Arabic dictionaries. Hutama is like the particle which one cannot see with unaided eye, or with the unaided eye only when it passes through a beam of light. Then you begin to see very small, minute particles floating in the air, not otherwise. I don't see any particle, but sometimes if a beam is thrown, then you begin to see many small, tiny particles hanging in the area where the beam is striking. So it's amazing, but it's not enough. That's not all. لَيُنْبَذَنَّ فِي الْحُطَمَةِ. And the next question which is raised is fantastic. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْحُطَمَةِ. How on earth can we make you understand what hutama is? Because time had not yet come for the people to understand. Time was yet to come for people to know what atom was and what it could do. It says, وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْحُطَمَةِ نَارُ اللَّهِ الْمُوقَدَةُ الَّتِي. We are talking of the fire of God, which will be built. مُوقَدَةُ الَّتِي, it will be built within this small particle. تَطَّلِعُ عَلَى الْأَفْئِدَةِ. A strange fire it would be. Before burning the bodies, it will leap directly at the hearts and make them cease to beat. تَطَّلِعُ عَلَى الْأَفْئِدَةِ. إِنَّهَا عَلَيْهِمْ مُوصَدَةٌ. This fire within that hutama is closed or locked up for them. In what form? In fi amadim mumaddada. Amad is like a pillar, but mumaddada means which is made to look like a pillar after stretching it. Now, if you ever happen to see the picture of atom or the substance, radioactive substance which is about to explode, you will see without fail the scientist presenting it in the form of something which is extended to the sides and extended beyond its original size in the form of a pillar like being extended until it breaks and explodes. So what better description of atom and atomic bomb could you expect from any book at a time when the concept of atom was not yet born? That is why I searched far and wide for an explanation from earlier commentators regarding this. I found none. They were completely perplexed. All that they could offer was maybe this pillar is the name of a pillar in hell. Hell, of course it would be, but not in the hereafter, here, in this world. Then the Holy Quran speaks of Qarya, a terrorizing sound which will destroy everything by the immense intensity of the wave. But returning to this verse, have you ever seen a fire which does not burn first, but leaps at the heart directly without heat wave touching the body. If you have not, read the history of Hiroshima, written by a scientist. They would tell you that the atomic explosion released shock waves, and as shock waves as well as heat waves. But the shock waves traveled faster than the heat waves. And all other forms of radiation were left behind. And it was the shock waves which killed people, because immediately the hearts were arrested under that immense shock. Like the microwave, if somebody is subjected to a microwave, his heart would come to a standstill immediately. So the Holy Quran goes to the length of describing the nature of that fire locked within the heart of an unseen, invisible small particle, in the form that when it explodes, it leaps at the hearts and destroys them. But the consequences of this atomic explosion are further explained in Surah Ad-Dukhan, which means the smoke. And it is said that a day would come when a smoke would begin to travel, move along the earth and countries, which will spell death and destruction. And nobody will be able to escape from its destruction on whom this smoke casts a shadow. Now you read the description, and you have to admit that before the discovery of atomic radiation spreading through cloud and smokes, spelling destruction on whatever they cast their shadows, was seen, witnessed by you yourself today. Unless you had done it, you couldn't understand it. So the Holy Quran is not a book of the past. It is a living book. It specifically mentioned all the important events and inventions by man of this age. Even speaking of the attempt to change nature of God through tampering with the genes and characters, etc. Even that is mentioned. Enough? Thank you. Thank you.
Next question is the last one, and that is, we invite Mr. Kazali from Sierra Leone, please.
From Sierra Leone. Yes, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
People are going to be judged according to their faith in the world hereafter, in the Yom Al-Qiyam. If I die now, am I going to live in the grave till the day of judgment? Or will I taken to heaven or live in paradise? I want to know what will happen from now on to that day. Yeah.
Okay. On this subject, I have spoken at length so many times that even a book can be prepared on this one single subject, collecting all these answers, but there would be repetitions, of course, in different angles also, in every answer. In short, because the time is already run out, I'll try to give you the salient features of this phenomenon of people dying and then coming to a form of life again. I'll give you a summary of our beliefs. It's not time for me to build all the arguments on which those beliefs are based. When we die, we will not lose consciousness in the sense of the soul which separates from our body. The soul, which is an enigma for the scientists here, is something which, when it parts from the body chemistry immediately begins to decay and return to its constituent substances. And there is no more sense left in the body at all. does the soul also destroy? Is it so dependent on the body that it must live in a constant bondage with the body or not? According to Islam, in case of other animals, this is right, that when the body dies, the soul, their life dies. When the life dies, not the soul, soul is only mentioned in case of human beings, not in relation to the animals. When the life dies out, the body dies, life dies, it's one and the same thing. But in case of human beings, the word soul is used, ruh. And this has developed to a degree that it has the capability of becoming an independent entity in itself, a spiritual form which can live after separation. What is the nature of that form, we don't know much. But this much at least scientists have discovered, that energy bundles can survive as energy bundles, and previously, before this discovery, they used to poo-poo the idea of believing in souls, but they now admit that what we have discovered leads us to the possibilities of some sort of human energy living in an organized form as separated from the physical existence of man. So that is what will happen in the first place. It will have a consciousness of some sort. In the first appearance before God, it will be adjudged briefly, and it would know from then on in which direction it is going to develop. Further development of the soul would require eons of time, a very long period, in which it will develop in the form that a body will be created from within that soul, and a soul will be created from within that body. That is to say, a separation will be made in that existence so that a center of thinking, a center of entity will be created around the soul, that part of soul which in comparison, which appear to be material, but it will not be material. So it is only a matter of degrees. God is the ultimate of spiritual refinement. So all those who happen to be at a subsequent smaller level or a cruder level, they cannot conceive exactly the nature of the the spiritual nature of God, which defies form, but it does exist. And it is proved through his works. That existence is proved through the works of God. Beyond that we cannot reach. But about the soul, we have some experience here which can lead us to believe in a phenomenon which may occur after our death. And that is experienced in two ways. Number one, in dreams. In dreams, things happen which appear to be real, but they defy the natural laws of our daily experience. We can walk through walls, we can see things of the past, we can experience visiting countries which we had never visited, and yet feel during the dream as if everything was real. We can meet our dead dear ones of the past and enjoy meeting them and talking to them. And as you are dreaming, you really believe that this is exactly what is happening. But it is not happening in the physical form. Nothing is created. Yet something like that will happen to the soul. But this happening would be more real than our dreams. So the soul will have the same qualities, not exactly, but similar qualities, as that of our new identity within our dreams. According to Hazrat Masih Maud, the founder of the Ahmadiyya community, in his great historic book, the teachings of Islam, the philosophy of the teachings of Islam, he builds this subject further by reminding us that it will not be just a dream existence. A new creation will be made out of the essence of man's personality, which has got separated at the end, at the time of his death. That essence will be composed of his views, his thoughts, his attitudes, his goodness or his evil, his acts of defiance of the word of God or his obedience to the will of God. All these continuously make, according to Hazrat Masih Maud al-Islam, a personality within us. So a thing is born within us and we make it. We create our hell or our heaven and we don't realize it. But he said one day some evil person may suddenly be awakened and he would be absolutely exasperated to realize that he has destroyed himself. What he is a rotten thing. And the good people gradually gain the realization of their nobility to a degree that that realization becomes the very reward of the nobility itself. So once awakened, the human conscience creates the hell for the evil people and the heaven for the good people. So Hazrat Masih Maud pointed out that this is not in vain, this is not accidental. This does not happen in case of animals. There is no such sense of nobility or evil actions and their consequences among the animal kingdom. God has specifically been evolved to such a degree where his acts would create a soul in him, and his heaven and hell would be born out of his own actions. They will be given a form by the act of God, that is the new creation. And it will take a very long time ultimately. So when the last call is made before the resurrection, by that time all the human souls would have acquired a new form, a new body, a new spirit within that spiritual body, and they would be able to suffer if they will be able to acquire the faculty of suffering of that nature, which is not physical fire here. It is a different type of fire which sometimes we experience through extreme repentance, sense of shame, etc., or sense of exposure of our crimes. So this is, in short, what is going to happen to us after our death. While we live, we should try to create a healthier soul within us that can only be created if we become true within, or in the end, let me quote the words of an earlier questioner, if we go for a purer heart. If we achieve a pure heart, such pure hearts will be saved from the hell. And in the words of Hazrat Masih Maud al-Islam, आग है पर आग से वो सब बचाए जाएंगे जो कि रखते हैं खुदाए जुल अजाइब से प्यार. Fire it is, no doubt. But all such people will be saved from that fire who have love of God, true love of God in their hearts. In the final analysis, purity of heart or love of God are one and the same thing. God bless you. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.